John Scott, Jonathan Acosta, Vic Carucci here, day 2 of Bills training camp in the books. The story remains the same as it was at the top of the list for day 1. James Cook speaking with the media, his perspective now on where things are with the contract, why he is here. And I'll just start it off with this. It's the most comfortable I've ever seen James Cook in the interview setting, smiling, personality, energy that the usually, not because he's disgruntled or unhappy, just his personality has shown in years prior. He's more stoic, reserved, and has very less to say. An interesting choice to show, especially under the circumstances, that, hey, this is the version of James Cook we're getting out the gate.
I think the term that I would use would be almost like a professional relaxation. He's now, in his 3rd or 4th year in the NFL. He just seems a lot more comfortable just from that aspect. I think it's a guy who understands that what Brandon Beane has said, that the business is the business. We even heard Deion Dawkins say that exact same phrase, that it'll sort of take care of itself. He's already made his message loud and clear. Everyone knows what it is, what he wants. His job now is to come out here, play football, help this team win games, and put himself in a position to cash in after this season. And that's what he said the very first thing out of his mouth when we spoke with him today. It's my job to be out here for his teammates.
Yeah, not only his job, but I also think, at least in his mind, and I'm not sure how this will translate to anything in the negotiations, but the fact that he is a full, willing, and engaged participant, just his movement, his performance on the field, giving the sense that he's not just physically here, but he's present. And I think in his mind, and I asked him that question, that helps from a leveraging standpoint. I don't know that it helps, but I don't think it can hurt when you have that sort of attitude and approach. And if what we saw in that press conference is the kind of James Cook who is around the people, not just his teammates who, like I said, he loves and respects and is doing this for them, but the people who run this football team, Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, they're at least, to say it's civil, I think is not giving it justice. I think it's beyond that, and that's probably a good thing no matter how this works out.
And he certainly started making statements about his play on the field today. Takes a little dump-off pass from Josh Allen and goes, 60, 70 yards to the house. Even without the pads on, you see the burst. We already know the playmaking ability. And to your point, Vic, you talk about locked in, dialed in from the very beginning here. He's out here to prove. And it was asked, where do you think you are in the top running backs? He goes, I'm the top running back. What do you think? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't expect anything else, but he also doesn't regret the actions he's taken, the public knowledge or the public way that he's gone about this, which I also find somewhat interesting.
One, there's a confidence to his game, I think, because of what he was able to do last year. Remember, he tied for the league lead in rushing touchdowns last year, a league that includes Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey and running backs of those calibers. James Cook was at the top in terms of rushing touchdowns. So he knows his value to this offense or any potential offense he may be a part of in the future. And so I think that kind of gives him a little bit of ammo to feel like, hey, if I come out and have the season that I know I'm capable of having, I'm going to get paid, whether it's by the Bills or by another team. Something said that he knows what he wants, he knows what he deserves, and that he said that he's looking forward to that happening, whether it's here or wherever it may happen.
I give him a lot of respect for owning a thing that was pretty controversial, that could put you in hot water. Think about any other player in the Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane era of running this football team who's been public about contract demands. I mean, the most public guy about being unhappy being here, of course, Stephon Diggs, and he's no longer here. But he owned it, James Cook did, and again, I respect that, number one. And number two, I think of other players I've covered through the years where I might have written that story about the guy who was disgruntled about his deal, and he gets called out by management or whatever, and comes back and he's mad at me or says, oh, it was taken out of context, or it was, well, whatever. James Cook, mad respect for a guy who says, I wanted this money, and, I don't regret that I went out and said it.
We talked about the big play Cook had in the practice portion of things. The offense, better today. I think it was also part of the scenarios and circumstances when you're pinned up on the goal line and working on that. Smaller fields, wasn't their best day, more open fields, more playmaking from Josh Allen in the passing game. And that also includes Keon Coleman, who we know is going to be a hot topic moving forward. I found it interesting we heard from offensive coordinator Joe Brady, before practice today, was once again asked about Keon Coleman, and Brady saying point blank, I must have felt Keon had a better year last season based on all of these questions that I keep getting. He's standing up for his guy. I think if you watched the games, I think it's appropriate to have questions about Coleman, but he had a nice afternoon here today.
Yeah, and I think it's something where at every turn that we've heard from someone else in this Bills organization, the one thing they've sort of defended is his professionalism, and especially the way he's come out to work this offseason to maybe not make up for what last year was, but certainly show that he can get back to that level, the trajectory that he was showing before his injury in that Miami game. A nice day for him. I still think Vic and I were talking about it. I think there has to come a point maybe where Keon Coleman kind of knows who he is as a receiver, and the Bills offense knows who he is as a receiver, because there's certain elements where he does excel at. I think he's very good over the middle, short to intermediate range, but there is one play where he was lined up against Maxwell Hairston and they throw him a go ball, and Vic and I were talking, Keon Coleman's just not the kind of receiver that if you're going to throw him a go ball, you lay it out in front of him and expect him to outrun Maxwell Hairston. That's just not going to happen.
And he didn't.
and he didn't. No, it was an incomplete pass. So maybe that's something where Josh can work on with Keon. And that was something that Brady said too. What do you want to see out of him? Hey, him continuing to work on that dialogue with Josh and say, on this kind of pass, let's throw it this way. On this kind of pass, let's throw it that way. And I think that specific instance with that route on Maxwell Hairston was a perfect example of that, about how maybe the step forward for Coleman this year is not just in terms of route running or footwork or something, but better communication and chemistry.
And on that
Josh
point,
Allen.
quickly, you saw that back-to-back plays in Seattle, they throw a fade pattern to Keon Coleman. The first one is incomplete. The second one, maybe one of the better plays of Coleman's rookie season.
Yes.
You would have to imagine Brady saw something, Josh saw something. There was some sort of quick dialogue between just one play to the next to have that comfort level to go back to it. That's what I think Coleman can do.
Yeah, as much as anything else, it's about him in year two evolving, growing, maturing. I think he was an immature guy, and that's not a bulletin, as a rookie, a guy who has to grow as a human being. And it's true with a lot of rookies, if not all rookies, but certainly a guy with his personality, which is fun and enjoyable and made him a fan favorite immediately. But it does have to translate on the field. It feels like, to me, the messaging that came from Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane about Keon Coleman was that you just be serious about the craft, and it isn't how you what you say or how you carry yourself in that way. It's the work you do, the work you put in, and that work, and to your point, Jonathan and John, is communicating with others, is letting the offensive coordinator know, and we heard Joe Brady say this today, the best meetings we have are meetings when I don't talk as much as the players. Let them do most of the talking. Well, I think that's a factor in. I think he's referring to everybody. He's also, in the quarterback room for sure. But I think he's referring as much to a Keon Coleman or other receivers, saying to the point of, okay, let's utilize me in these situations because this is what I'm good at.
Some people watching this right now might think this is better when I do less talking, so I apologize. There are other things on offense that stood out to me. Curtis Samuel was involved.
Yes.
I like some of the plays that he was making. Elijah Moore also in the mix. I happen to be far boundary on a throw from Josh Allen that I was telling Vic, these are the types of plays that you almost take for granted. I mean, it is such a long, challenging throw to put it on a dime. Day 2 of training camp nonetheless, and it was right there for Elijah Moore with Cam Lewis in fantastic coverage. But the rest of that group behind Coleman, it's interesting as we continue, still early, but once we get the pads on, to see how everyone eats, because Joe Brady is still wearing a hat this morning that says everybody eats.
I think you touched on him. Curtis Samuel, a couple of nice catches in 7-on-7 work, a couple more in 11-on-11. Seemed like maybe there was a steady diet of play action game here that they were testing out, which I think the Bills could honestly employ a little bit more of this upcoming season. Josh Allen is incredible when they use the play action. Obviously, you have the threat of the run game with James Cook. You add in the threat of his legs and obviously his arm. I think it's something that the Bills could use more of. It was an offense that didn't have a lot of faults last year, but maybe in a way to improve. And Joe Brady talks about the wrinkles and experimenting, maybe a little bit more of that play action. Curtis Samuel, a guy that coming into this offseason, we wondered, what does a fully healthy version of him for a full year look like? I think today you saw what a healthy Curtis Samuel can do in camp, and if it's something that he can continue to build off of and stay healthy, does he position himself as maybe that top guy in the receiver room behind Khalil Shakir?
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, they need to see it. There needs to be an emergence. You can't just sit here and say the same crew will take them where they need to go. Yes, it was highly productive. They had those 30 points per game average. You can't say that the offense was a problem. Oh, yeah, and the MVP quarterback to go with it. But you can improve everywhere, and keep in mind the things that they did well, opponents are going to take away, or certainly work on taking away. To go back to James Cook, though, one moment here, I wonder if that play we talked about, the 70-yard little dump-off throw that turned into that 70-yard touchdown run, or whatever it was, 60-plus, is again foreshadowing of what the season might bring. Because James Cook, when I asked him about how this offense is maybe adjusting or changing and how he sees it for his role, he said more passes, get me involved in the passing game more third down types of plays. I think that was his way of saying, yeah, utilize me there. I know you got, he didn't say this, but I'm saying it, you got Ray Davis, you got Ty Johnson, and we know Ty gets involved in a lot of those third down circumstances. I think James Cook is saying, have me on the field then.
Well, you're not getting paid $15 million if you're a two-down running back. There's also a business side and a personal side of that, and if you're Brandon Beane, you're probably thinking that. And they're not intentionally going to keep him off the field just so that takes away one of the leverage points there. But I do think Joe Brady, all-encompassing, again, literally wearing a hat that says everybody eats, so that's going to continue here. It's the wide receivers, it's the running backs, and it's the tight ends. And I'll just say this, Dalton Kincaid, he didn't leave the field, but he did something here, and we're seeing with Dawson Knox out, Zach Davidson, a darling of training camp from just a year ago, seeing more run with Josh Allen and that first-team offense. Jackson Hawes seeing some time. Yeah. But again, we always talk about it this time of year, and maybe you roll your eyes. It's all about trust, and who knows what in the world that they're doing and knows the offense. Zach Davidson's been part of this program for a long time. I have Jackson Hawes as a fifth-round pick. Set it and forget it, he's going to make the team. Yeah. But if Zach Davidson continues to get the opportunities and do it, I know you're not going to really think that the third tight end is going to move the needle here. But just, again, it's probably more about as Dalton Kincaid okay as we move ahead into day number 3, which is going to be tomorrow. Let's move to the defensive side of things. And where should we begin? I'll let you do a dealer's choice.
Let's start at safety.
Okay. Go for it.
Well, another day of Cole Bishop getting the first run with the first team. I think through these first 2 days we can see sort of maybe what we were expecting, that the table's laid out for him to win that starting job. Can he just go out and really take it? I will say this for Damar Hamlin, though. He had a really nice play in the 7-on-7 drills. It was a throw up the numbers to Curtis Samuel, and Hamlin made a really nice break on the ball to come up with the pass breakup. And I think oftentimes when we've discussed the Cole Bishop and Damar Hamlin dynamic at safety, it's Bishop is the athletic guy, Hamlin is just the guy who has the trust of the defense, has been in the system but doesn't really make plays. That was a nice note for Hamlin, sort of to the contrary, showing that, hey, it's not just his knowledge of the defense. Does it help in that sort of situation to be able to know when to break on that ball? Potentially, but he also has the athleticism to go out and make positive plays for the defense. So it's still going to be a position battle. Do we maybe see Hamlin one of these upcoming days get a crack to start the day with the ones? You would think maybe so, but it's still something that he's going to have to take away from Bishop, who still seems like the favorite at safety.
Yeah, and taking it away from Bishop is the exact phrasing here. Bishop can give it away by performing poorly or getting hurt and not having enough time on the field. I think those are the only two ways that he loses that job to Damar Hamlin or anyone else. Still, I think the fact that Hamlin is making himself visible, making plays, is he enough of a fixture on this team to maintain a spot as a backup or part of a safety rotation or whatever? He could. I'm still not convinced, though, that it's a long-term future. I know there's a lot off the field that still resonates with Damar Hamlin and all that he has done. nationally, worldwide, to bring attention to CPR training and all the equipment, the apparatus. We know the governor was here at camp today as part of that initiative. So a lot of good stuff, and maybe that makes it very hard to ever part ways with a player like that. But I'm not ruling out that we see emergence elsewhere at this safety position battle, because I still think it's wide open, at least from a backup sense. I know 2 days doesn't say put the stamp on Cole Bishop, but the team has put that stamp there. Yeah. All they're waiting, not waiting to see, all that could happen is that it gets taken away by, again, injury, or he just slumps in such a way that we don't expect it to happen.
Early on in camp, they're very intentional with reps and who's out with who. And at the safety position, it's been Cole Bishop and it's been Taylor Rapp. At the cornerback position, yeah, it's been a lot of Tre'Davious White paired up with Christian Benford, but you do see some Maxwell Hairston in there as well. So that also just gives you one level down in the secondary, a little path into that's actually a true competition, more so than the Cole Bishop. Was there anything from Tre'Davious White today or Maxwell Hairston that stood out? Both had moments in day one.
I think, like you said, both had moments in day one. Both seemingly had their plays here on day two. The play that I think stood out to me was when we were talking about, maybe from the negative side, about Keon Coleman. It's nice for Maxwell Hairston.
He was
to get
stride
out,
for stride.
Stride for stride, and obviously forced Josh Allen to overthrow Keon. And again, just a nice defensive play. I think for me, the biggest takeaway in terms of cornerback is when we were hearing Deion Dawkins talk about having Tre'Davious White back in the fold, and just this is a family-like atmosphere with this team. But I think one of the best examples of it is Tre'Davious White. We saw him yesterday playing with Deion Dawkins' kids, and they were calling him Uncle Trey and everything. And Deion Dawkins, he has a way with words. and when he was just talking about Tre'Davious White being back, he was just saying that it was almost like when you go away to grandma's house and then you're finally back home after being away at grandma's house. Yeah. He just feels like he's home, and that sense of comfort really allows Tre'Davious White to not just be himself off the field, but truly feel comfortable on the field and be the best version of himself.
And you got to picture that grandma wearing one of those split jerseys, right? She had a Rams jersey and a Ravens jersey on, with Tre'Davious' number. I think it's, in a general sense, the vibe with White for everybody, and it isn't. Yes, it's his friends on the team like a Deion Dawkins, who they have a closeness. But you heard Brandon Beane talk about him on day one. Say, I see it 2-7, noticing and validating the idea of bringing him back. I think it was a great move on the part of this football team to go back to this guy, sometimes reaching back into that well, which this team does a lot, doesn't always produce favorable results. This one, I think, can, and as much as anything else, it's a mentoring, it's a placeholder, it's whatever you want to call it. Maxwell Hairston, the whole idea here is that he is going to be a longtime fixture starter on this team. First rounders are picked for that reason. When that starts, again, I don't know, but could maybe you could find something better as a circumstance, but I right now can't think of something better than what they have with an experienced and settled and happy Tre'Davious White as part of this atmosphere and this team, and the familiarity with teammates, coaches, the whole works, being there for however long they need him to be there, potentially as the starter from day one.
It almost feels like that situation when teams sometimes draft that quarterback in the first round, and he's sort of the QB in waiting because they still have that veteran that has some years left. The Green Bay Packers situation comes to mind specifically. It's not exactly the same because Hairston is truly competing with Tre'Davious White, but if he ends up sitting half the season or a year and gets to learn from him more so than being forced in a starting role, it seems like it could have some positive benefits, much in the way that quarterback situation plays out.
Let's move up a little bit more on the defense. Dorian Williams leaving practice. No real word on what he's dealing with or the severity. Hopefully get some more clarity tomorrow morning. A.J. Epinesa also leaving practice as well, so some injuries creeping up with the play on the field. Hopefully get more details moving forward. The defensive line rotation continues to be interesting. I'm seeing Michael Hoyt get some run with the ones. I'm seeing Javon Solomon get some run with the ones. You're seeing the young guys rotate on the inside as well. It's tough right now because there's no pads. It's not truly physical, but that remains the most interesting place to me on the defense. And when you hear a guy like Deion Dawkins, who is not small, talk about the size of guys like Landon Jackson and Deion Walker and all of them. That clearly is sticking out not just to us normal-sized people, but the big guys that they're going up against.
It's something that we were talking about on our way back from lunch, how Joey Bosa is a large fella in and of himself, and then he stands next to Landon Jackson or a Deion Walker, and they seem to tower over him like a power forward and a small forward, for example. So I think, like you said, that's going to be the fascinating thing to watch on the inside moving forward, especially when the pads come on, because Joe Brady made the comment about how the wide receiver play he really evaluates with the physicality when the pads come on. That's even more so on the defensive side. You see these guys rotate and everything, but there's the way they call plays down early in the backfield and stuff like that, not really tackling. That's what you want to see out of those big guys inside and how they really move the offensive linemen. So I think that's something that's still process and waiting, something where we have to sort of hold off on some evaluations, unlike maybe what we can do at the skill positions on the outside right now.
Right now, what we see, again, is the size. Will that translate into performance? Two different things, but if it does work and gel, and that's still a big if, let's come up with a nickname, because you got the fearsome foursome through the years, the purple people eaters, the doomsday defense, and how about the redwood forest defense? Because these guys are just towering, and if you ever catch yourself, as we do, because when they go back and forth to the fields and go past us to the practice fields, and you're just looking, Joey Bosa, chatting with him yesterday up close, and you're looking up like this, and yet he's shorter than some of the other guys. And I'm thinking, unbelievable. But look, it makes sense that you want to get bigger, you want to get stronger, you want to get meaner there. The Philadelphia Eagles template, once again, let's bring it up because it's worth mentioning, had a whole lot to do with the nemesis of the Bills being humiliated right out of the stadium in the Super Bowl last February. So if that is an example of how you can counteract a great quarterback like Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or whoever, Lamar Jackson, that is the antidote. Do they have it? We'll see.
Vic, we'll end on this. You had a fun story that you were able to see between Terry Pegula, some kids, Kathy Hochul, Josh Allen, and it maybe shows a side of Terry who we understand, mixed feelings, especially depending upon which of his teams you're discussing here, but a really cool moment with Terry today. Yeah,
so watching him in this photo, there was a photo op on the sideline. They're kind of behind a roped-off area. Kids it was a group of kids all kind of wearing the same colored T-shirts, and Terry walks over with the governor to do a photo op, and in Terry's case, it's a young girl, asked him to sign one of those little blue Bills backpacks, and so he's signing it, and she asked him, if she can get Josh Allen's, or if he can get Josh Allen's autograph.
Shoot your shot, girl, right?
He grabs the bag, Terry does, and goes jogging, like right in front, jogging out to midfield, and I'm watching him, I'm saying, he's going to go get this out. And Josh is getting ready with the other quarterbacks to do a drill, and it's like, it's like, Josh. And he turns and he grabs and I see him signing the bag, and Terry jogs back through. And fortunately, none of the other players ran him over because they were moving around, and big bodies that we're talking about are going around there. But Terry showed good speed, good athleticism, in getting that bag back to this extremely happy young lady. And I'll tell you, the people around part of that group and whatever were just enthralled and were in awe. Now, the one footnote we put on this is, I think, not only as the owner of the team who pays the bills, but he paid that bill, Josh Allen, guaranteed of $250 million. I think the least he could do is get him to sign something.
That's something that I certainly hope. I certainly hope Hard Knocks got. There's enough of them out here.
I'm sure they got it. There's enough cameras and microphones.
That's a moment.
And then I would love in the director's cut or the commentary some Brandon Beane and the scouting evaluation of the movements of Terry on the field as well.
And that's one of the moments, too, when you come to training camp. Obviously, there's the evaluation process, the analysis that you make of the players on the field, and you analyze starting battles and stuff like that. But a lot of it, too, for the fans who come out here is just the experience of getting to see the team in a different type of setting. A lot of kids here getting autographs from players, and these are sort of like the moments that really create sort of like that lifelong attachment to a team. So I'm sure for that girl to get that moment, not just from Josh Allen, but from the owner of the Buffalo Bills, to put in that effort to make sure she got her autograph. I think it's something that she's going to remember for the rest of her life.
And guys, I can't think of another time when you've really seen that side of Terry.
No.
I mean, right? It's not a side he'll show. Certainly not publicly. He doesn't do. It rarely does he even do anything from an interview standpoint or media standpoint. Some nice enough guy to say hello and give you a smile or a wave. But that I thought was something. And by the way, it wasn't done for the sake of us talking about it or cameras catching it. It was as impromptu as could be. It was not a setup at all. It was in a reaction to a request, and he felt something in his heart to go ahead and do that, and it was impressive.
Some cool moments here at camp, football-wise and beyond. Day 3, 9:45 on Friday. Knock on wood, weather permitting.
Yeah.
With Vic Carucci, Jonathan Acosta, I'm John Scott for Channel 2 Sports.